1. Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero was the type of wrestler who made you smile, even when he was cheating and stealing to win matches in the ring. Born into a family of legendary Mexican wrestlers, Eddie was not only a great wrestler, he had that raw emotion, which made him a beloved character in the WWE. After years of personal struggles, including battles with drug and alcohol addiction, Eddie made a powerful comeback in the early 2000s. He ended up winning the WWE Championship in 2004, and it appeared he was on course to become one of the greatest superstars in the company. But on the morning of November 13, 2005, Eddie was found unconscious in his hotel room by his nephew Chavo Guerrero and was later pronounced dead at the scene. He was just 38 years old, and the autopsy revealed that he had died from acute heart failure due to underlying cardiovascular disease, most likely worsened by years of substance abuse. His death devastated the wrestling community and led WWE to produce back-to-back tribute shows in his honor, with many performers breaking character to share stories. 2. Owen Hart. There was something instantly likable about Owen Hart, whether it was the way he carried himself in the ring or how he brought laughter to everyone around him. He always had a presence that felt both grounded and rare in the wrestling world. Owen was the younger brother of the legendary Bret Hart and a member of the Hart dynasty. He was destined for greatness and had just started to gain momentum in the wrestling world. On May 23, 1999, during WWE's Over the Edge pay-per-view, Owen was set to descend from the rafters using a quick-release harness as part of his Blue Blazer entrance. But as he was being lowered, the mechanism released prematurely and he fell approximately 78 feet into the ring, landing chest first on the top rope. The impact caused severe internal bleeding and blunt force trauma to his chest, rupturing his aorta. He was pronounced dead shortly after reaching the hospital. In the aftermath, WWE received intense backlash for their security measures. They were also bombarded with multiple lawsuits by the Hart family, but fans could never forget Owen Hart, whose career was prematurely cut short because of a small mistake. 3. Umaga. Umaga was one of the most dominant and unique forces to come out of the Samoan wrestling legacy. With his untamed look, explosive offense, and intimidating presence, he brought chaos into every match without saying a word. Umaga had a great run in WWE, where he won the Intercontinental Championship multiple times, and even went toe-to-toe with the likes of John Cena and Triple H. But outside the ring, Edward Fatu struggled with substance issues, and his health had begun to deteriorate. On December 4, 2009, he was found unresponsive in his Houston home after suffering a massive heart attack. He was rushed to the hospital and placed on life support, but his second heart attack that evening proved fatal. The autopsy later confirmed he had died from acute toxicity caused by the combined effects of hydrocodone, carisoprodol, and diazepam, all powerful prescription drugs. He was only 36. Though Umaga's life was cut short, his impact, especially as part of the legendary Anoa'i family, continues to live on. 4. Chyna. Chyna changed what it meant to be a woman in professional wrestling. With unmatched strength, a towering physique, and quiet confidence, she broke barriers by competing in matches against male superstars, winning the Intercontinental Championship and becoming a central figure during WWE's Attitude Era. She stood out not just because of her size, but because of her ability to hang with and often outperform her male counterparts. After leaving WWE in the early 2000s, her life became filled with struggles. She wrestled with substance abuse, public controversies, and a growing sense of isolation from the industry she helped change. She even entered the adult industry for a change, but it distanced her even more from the spotlight. On April 17, 2016, Chyna was found dead in her home in California. The autopsy confirmed she died from an accidental overdose of alcohol mixed with anxiety and pain medications, including diazepam and oxycodone. She was 46. Despite being alienated from WWE for decades, her death sparked a wave of tributes and finally brought long overdue recognition to her awesome career. 5. The Ultimate Warrior. The Ultimate Warrior was one hell of a character, known for his face paint, wild energy, and intense, unfiltered promos. He sprinted to the ring with unmatched intensity, shook the ropes, and fed off the crowd like few others could. He became WWE Champion at WrestleMania 6 and was one of the biggest stars of the late 80s and early 90s. After years of being estranged from WWE, Warrior returned in 2014 for a long-awaited Hall of Fame induction, just one night after appearing on Raw to deliver an emotional speech about legacy and mortality. He collapsed while walking to his car with his wife. He was pronounced dead later that day, on April 8, 2014. The cause of death was a massive heart attack, officially listed as atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. He was 54. The timing was haunting. He had finally made peace with WWE and its fans, only to pass away the very next day. His death stunned the wrestling world and cast a new light on his last words, which many interpreted as his final goodbye. 6. Luke Harper. Harper built his reputation as a hard-hitting, agile big man with a presence that always demanded attention. In WWE, he was part of the Wyatt family, quietly delivering some of the most intense performances of the era. After moving to AEW as Brody Lee, he finally got a chance to lead, becoming TNT champion and proving just how versatile and valuable he really was. In October 2020, Harper was hospitalized with a rare and sudden lung illness called idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, a condition that caused severe scarring in his lungs. Despite being treated at the Mayo Clinic, his condition worsened rapidly. On December 26, 2020, he passed away at just 41 years old. Because the illness was not related to COVID-19 and had been kept private at the family's request, fans were completely blindsided by the news. AEW quickly held a tribute show in his honor, and wrestlers across all promotions spoke openly about his kindness, work ethic, and love for his family. His death left a hole not just in the ring, but in every locker room he ever walked through. 7. Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt was one of the most creative and enigmatic minds wrestling had ever seen. From his eerie cult leader persona to the terrifying Fiend, he redefined what a character could be in modern WWE. Fans were drawn to the mystique he created, a blend of horror, theater, and emotion that felt larger than life, but deeply human underneath. After dominating WWE shows for almost a decade, Bray quietly took a break in early 2023. Fans knew he was suffering from some sort of health complication, but they didn't think it was anything serious. They were certain it was only a matter of time before he'd return to the ring. However, on August 24, 2023, Bray Wyatt died in his sleep after suffering a massive heart attack. Months earlier, he had contracted COVID-19, which worsened a pre-existing heart condition. Though he had been prescribed a defibrillator to help regulate his heart, reports later revealed that he wasn't wearing it that night. And just like that, 2 of the original 3 members of the iconic Wyatt family left us forever. 8. Yokozuna. Yokozuna was introduced as a stoic Japanese sumo wrestler, but in reality, he was Rodney Inoue, a proud member of the Samoan wrestling dynasty. Despite weighing over 500 pounds, he moved with remarkable agility and dominated in the early 1990s, winning the WWE Championship twice and headlining back-to-back WrestleManias. But as the years went on, his weight continued to climb, and health complications became harder to manage. On October 23, 2000, while on tour in the United Kingdom, Yokozuna passed away in his hotel room at just 34 years old. The cause of death was pulmonary edema, a condition in which fluid builds up in the lungs, often linked to heart failure and extreme obesity. Yokozuna was posthumously inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2012. 9. Rody Piper. Rody Piper wasn't just a heel, he was a cultural force. With his sharp tongue, unpredictable energy, and unmatched presence, he helped shape wrestling's golden era. Though he never held a world championship in WWE, his influence on promos, psychology, and the business itself is hard to overstate. Piper had a history of health issues tied to years of drug use, heavy travel, and the toll of wrestling. In the early 2000s, he survived Hodgkin's lymphoma, and his heart was permanently affected. On July 31, 2015, he died in his sleep at his home in Hollywood, California. The official cause was a heart attack brought on by a blood clot in his lungs. He was 61. His death sent shockwaves across the industry. Even in semi-retirement, he remained a popular figure through appearances and podcast work. Piper's passing marked the end of one of wrestling's most influential voices, someone who could work a crowd with a single sentence and who never needed a title to be a main event. 10. Chris Benoit. Chris Benoit was widely considered one of the most intense and technically gifted wrestlers of his generation. He wasn't flashy on the microphone, but inside the ring, his dedication, focus, and physical style earned him respect around the world. His crowning moment came at WrestleMania 20, when he stood in the ring as World Heavyweight Champion with tears in his eyes, embraced by his close friend Eddie Guerrero, a moment that felt like the culmination of years of sacrifice. But in June 2007, the wrestling world was shaken to its core by a tragedy that no one could make sense of. Benois missed several scheduled appearances, and when police entered his Georgia home, they found the bodies of Chris, his wife Nancy, and their 7-year-old son Daniel. Investors concluded that Benoit had killed his wife and son over the weekend, then took his own life. Later on, autopsy reports concluded that Benoit's brain had been damaged severely due to repeated concussions. The brain's condition resembled that of an elderly Alzheimer's patient. The horror of what happened permanently erased Benoit's legacy from WWE programming and forced the industry to take a hard look at mental health, head trauma, and the silent damage wrestlers endure behind the scenes. 11. Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes was the everyman of professional wrestling, a working-class hero who connected with fans through raw passion and iconic promos, long before charisma was measured by catchphrases. Known as the American Dream, Dusty represented the soul of wrestling in the 1970s and 80s, and later shaped an entire generation of stars behind the scenes at NXT. In June 2015, Dusty fell at his home in Orlando and was rushed to the hospital. Reports later confirmed that he suffered kidney failure, and on June 11, 2015, he passed away at the age of 69. The exact medical complications were never publicly detailed, but he had been dealing with multiple health issues in his final years. His death left a void not only for fans, but for the many younger wrestlers he mentored and inspired. WWE paid tribute across multiple shows, and even today, his name is spoken with deep reverence by those who credit him for their careers. Dusty wasn't just a legend. He was a teacher, a father figure, and a storyteller who made wrestling feel real. 12. Mr. Perfect. Curt Hennig, better known as Mr. Perfect, lived up to his name with impeccable timing, smooth in-ring work, and a confidence that never felt fake. He was one of the most technically sound wrestlers of his era and helped elevate everyone he stepped into the ring with. After a successful career in WWE and WCW, he remained active on the independent scene. On February 10, 2003, Hennig was found dead in a hotel room in Tampa, Florida. The cause was acute cocaine intoxication, and his death was ruled as an accidental drug overdose. Steroids and painkillers were also found in his system. He was just 44 years old. His passing was another sobering example of the damage wrestlers quietly carry from years of physical punishment and pain management. WWE honored his career by inducting him into the Hall of Fame in 2007. To this day, many still reference his flawless execution and his ability to make everything in the ring look effortless, a rare kind of performer who truly made perfection feel possible. 13. Test. Andrew Test Martin debuted in WWF as an unnamed bodyguard in 1998, but quickly became a full-time wrestler and even formed alliances with the likes of The Rock. He had everything that it took to be a top star: the height, the looks, and the physique. In early 1999, Test made headlines by having an on-screen affair with Stephanie McMahon, with whom he even got engaged. But despite flashes of brilliance, his career never reached its potential due to a series of brutal injuries. Test left the company in 2004 and returned for a short stint in early 2006, but was never pushed as a serious character. During the latter part of his career, Test joined TNA and also performed with various independent promotions, but they were all short-lived. In 2009, Test was found dead in his apartment from an accidental oxycodone overdose. He was just 33 years old. His brain was later examined and revealed signs of chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, caused by repeated head trauma. This was the same condition that contributed to the Chris Benoit tragedy as well. 14. Crash Holly. Mike Lockwood, known as Crash Holly, brought boundless energy and humor to WWE's hardcore division. He won the 24/7 Hardcore Championship an incredible 22 times, which was only bettered by Raven. Crash was the type of guy who would usually act as the comedic figure, but was extremely athletic and technical in the ring. He claimed that he was a 400-pound superweight, even though he was just 200, and would occasionally bring a weighing scale to his matches to prove that. Despite his fun-loving character, Crash Holly battled with depression and personal demons, something that was very common in WWE at the time. In November 2003, Crash was tragically found dead at a friend's home, in what was later ruled as a suicide. He mixed alcohol with some prescription medication to trigger a fatal overdose. While the exact motive is unknown, it was later revealed that his wife had recently filed for a divorce. 16. Shad Gasbard. Shad Gasbard made his name in WWE as part of Crime Time, teaming with JTG during the mid-2000s. With his imposing presence and natural charisma, Shad stood out as someone who connected with fans in and out of the ring. He was known for being easygoing, funny, and respectful behind the scenes, someone other wrestlers enjoyed being around. Away from wrestling, he acted in films, wrote comics, and focused on raising his son with his wife. Unfortunately, in May 2020, while swimming with his 10-year-old son in Venice Beach, a strong rip current pulled them into deep water. Coast Guards rushed to help, but Shad knew they didn't have much time, so he selflessly directed them to save his son first. Seconds later, another wave took him under. Several Coast Guards, as well as fellow wrestlers like JTG, John Morrison, and Chris Masters, relentlessly searched the area, but Shad was not found. His body eventually washed ashore in Venice Beach 3 days later. Shad was 39 at the time. 17. Andre the Giant. Andre the Giant was a freak of nature from France, standing at 7 feet 4 inches and weighing over 500 pounds. He suffered from acromegaly, a condition that caused his body to grow uncontrollably, but that didn't stop him from wrestling all over the world through the 1970s and 1980s. Dubbed the ninth wonder of the world, Andre was already a megastar long before he joined WWF. His rivalry with Hulk Hogan is regarded as one of the most iconic in professional wrestling history, which sent WWF's ratings through the roof. This guy was so huge that he once downed 117 beers in one sitting. But despite his cultural icon status, Andre's health was slowly deteriorating. Everyday tasks had become very difficult, and the pain was debilitating. Andre couldn't even find peace, as everywhere he went, he attracted a lot of crowd. On the morning of January 28, 1993, Andre died of congestive heart failure and an apparent heart attack in his sleep, likely associated with his untreated acromegaly. Andre the Giant was inducted into the inaugural Hall of Fame in 1993 as the only inductee. 18. Mickey Henson. Mickey Henson is a rare exception on this list since he wasn't a wrestler, but he was such a brilliant referee that we had to include him. He started out in Florida's wrestling scene in the late 80s and made a name for himself with his steady hand and sharp instincts. WCW picked him up in 1992, and he went on to officiate some of the biggest matches of the Monday Night Wars, including the night Goldberg streak ended at Starrcade 1998. Once WCW shut down, he moved over to WWE in 2005 and quickly became one of their most trusted referees, working high-stakes matches like Cena vs. Angle and the wild Edge vs. Foley hardcore brawl at WrestleMania 22. He later handled duties on ECW and SmackDown, eventually leading the referee crew. In 2008, he was diagnosed with mantle cell lymphoma and had to step away. He sadly passed away from COVID-related issues in 2022. He was 59 and loved by many. 19. Scott Hall. Scott Hall was a guy you couldn't ignore. When he showed up as Razor Ramon in WWF, he brought his laid-back, cool swagger that instantly made fans love him or love to hate him. His latter match with Shawn Michaels is still talked about as one of the best ever, but his biggest mark came in 1996 in WCW, when he helped create the New World Order, aka NWO, with Kevin Nash and Hulk Hogan. What made this so special was that Hulk Hogan turned heel for the first time in his career. Off camera, Scott's life wasn't easy. He fought serious battles with addiction for years and went through some really rough times. He was open about his battles and worked hard in recovery later in life, often crediting friends like DDP for helping him stay on track. But unfortunately, in March 2022, complications from hip surgery led to multiple heart attacks. Scott Hall passed away at age 63. His legacy lives on through the influence he had on an entire generation. 20. Psycho Sid. Psycho Sid was the type of guy who could spank your girlfriend and get away with it. He was a behemoth 6'9" tank who used his raw power to brutally cook his opponents. Sid debuted in WWF in 1991 and went on to win 2 WWF championships. The first one was by beating Shawn Michaels in '96 Survivor Series, and the second one just a few months later by pinning Bret Hart. Sid's promos were full of fury and unpredictability, making him a natural villain, but also someone fans respected when he switched to the good guy role. Sid then left for WCW, where he unfortunately suffered a horrific leg injury in 2001. It took him out of action for a long period of time. On the June 25, 2012 episode of Raw, Sid made his return to WWE and even defeated Heath Slater in a singles match. This was his first appearance in Raw since 1997. Sid battled with various illnesses after that. He was diagnosed with congestive heart failure and atrial fibrillation in 2016, which prompted him to wear a pacemaker. He was then diagnosed with stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, a type of cancer, in 2021, which ended up taking his life on August 26th. Psycho Sid was 63 at the time. 21. Sabu. Sabu, born Terry Brunk, was one of wrestling's wildest and most fearless performers. He grew up around wrestling thanks to his uncle, the Sheik, and quickly became known for throwing himself through tables, barbed wire, and just about anything else in ECW. After traveling the world, wrestling for different promotions, Sabu returned to WWE with the new ECW brand. He had a memorable, brutal match against Rey Mysterio at One Night Stand for the World Heavyweight title, and later faced John Cena in an Extreme Rules Lumberjack match. He also took part in the Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania 23 before leaving WWE in 2007. Even after that, Sabu kept wrestling all over the world. His final match was in April 2025 in Las Vegas, a no-rope barbed wire fight. Just a couple months later, he passed away at 60. Wrestling lost a true original that day.